Welcome to the Bougie Baldie Podcast with your host, Kellie Rhymes.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Bougie Baldie Podcast. My name is Kellie and I am a women's hair loss support and authenticity coach, and I help women with the mental challenges of hair loss. So if you're a woman who's experiencing hair loss and you notice that your personality has changed, you may have withdrawn from social events, and you may feel a little down or depressed, I'm a person who can help you get through that. So make sure you click the link in the description and book a call with me so we could talk a little bit further to find out what is going on and help you get to the other side. Now, today we have a special guest. Her name is Michele Johnson, and she is a fellow alopecian. Now, Michele, you can go ahead and say hi and just tell
Hi.
everybody a little bit about yourself.
So my name is Michele Johnson. I am a 55-year-old unapologetically bald woman of color. And I've been bald for about 4 years now. And I love it. I love being bald. I have been diagnosed with alopecia areata. I was diagnosed when I was younger, around my hairline. And over the years, I've had every hairstyle there is to have under the sun: braids, I had regular dreadlocks, I had sisterlocks, weaves and everything. But my hairline was always just kind of pushed back. And just decided that, I was just, as I got older, I was younger then, and I was just and trying to keep up with the latest trend and styles and, and everything. But then as I got older, I just decided, you know what, I'm over this whole hair thing, and just decided that was it. I started, when I cut my sister locks off, I just went down to like a little, what they call a TWA. And there I went down to almost like a G.I. Jane, a peach fuzz. And then I said, you know what? I wonder what I would look like, baby behind, smooth, bald. And I did it. And I was like, okay, I like this, and I was a little hesitant to go outside or go to work with it. And I was like, well, I'm just going to do it. And it's either people are not going to like it or they're not going to like it. And surprisingly, I just got tons of comments, that wow, you are really rocking that. Not too many Black women can wear their hair bald. Wish I could do that, and here I am. So
you know what?
Don't think
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Don't think I'll ever have hair again, my own or anybody else's.
Hey, you know what? I was about to just jump in there because something stood out to me. You had sister locks. How long did you have your sister locks before you started noticing your thinning hair?
I had my sister locks probably, I think about maybe about 5 years I had my sister locks. Yeah.
Okay.
And they were a little, so first I had traditional locks. And those, as they get longer, they get heavier. And depending on how your loctician twists, a lot of them twist going back. So the longer they got, they were further pulling my hairline back. So I already had the alopecia, but then the locks were further pulling my hair back. When I got the sister locks, the grid pattern that they use, they kind of come down this way, so it was easier to hide my edges with the sister locks. But I think my season was just over with locks, and I just decided that I was over it. I was done with it, and just decided to cut them off.
And so I'm asking that because I had traditional locks too. And that's when I first really started noticing that I was, losing hair, right? Noticing the bald spots and the thinning in my locks. So that I've also talked to a lot of other women who had locks, and same thing happened, and they ended up having to cut off their hair, or, they have alopecia or whatnot. And so that's why I was just wondering when you said that, I'm like, wow, because I'm just hearing it more and more. And I know locks are a natural style. I love them. I wish I could have them again. That's one style I wish I can get back. But this is what it is. I'm just wondering though, like you said, is it just the twisting part and how the pattern is going and the retwist and the weight of our hair that's really causing the hair loss or causing alopecia? Or is it something else in addition? And I really do believe it's something else in addition. I think it's a combination. But what are your thoughts?
I think it's a combination also too. I think it's a combination with the twisting, how you're twisting, how we style locks. We always kind of want to in the summertime, it's hot, you
Mhm.
put them up in a bun, or you do the Erica Badu wraps, or so I think it's all of that is all friction and tension on the hair. So I think it's just a collaborative issue, as far as the hair loss. Yes.
Yeah. And I mean, I also feel like it's internal too, like dieting and health and, all of those things, because I've also heard that like fibroids can be linked to hair loss. Of course, thyroids and other,
Yes.
medical conditions can be linked to hair loss. But I guess it's just not, or it maybe hasn't been in the past, and maybe they're talking about it more now. But I guess the medical industry isn't really saying, oh yeah, this could happen if you have fibroids. A lot of Black women have fibroids. I had them as well, but I did not know that that could have been linked to hair loss until just recently, and I had it for years before I had them removed.
I
So
have fibroids too, but again, never associated with my hair loss, So
yeah,
as a,
yeah.
as a child, though, I always had I had scalp problems when I was a child. I remember having dandruff really, really bad, to the
Mhm.
point where I always say there's two types of dandruff. There's the growing kind, and then there's the kind that takes your hair out. So I had the kind that took my hair out. My mother would wash my hair with a special kind of a shampoo that was prescribed by my doctor. And
Mhm.
um it just kind of, I think it all kind of started back then as a child with my hair situation. And then I think as I got older, it just kind of rectified itself.
Mhm.
And then this alopecia, which back then it was just told to me as alopecia. I didn't learn about the different types of alopecia until honestly 2 years ago, going to the BaldyCon
Okay.
conference in Atlanta, Georgia. And
Mhm.
I learned that there's about 7 different types of alopecia. And I was like, wow, I was only told I just had alopecia. They did a biopsy,
Mhm.
a little piece of skin here, and they sent it to the lab, came back, I had alopecia. And, but there was nothing for me to do about it. I did do some shots, like, the little,
Yeah, injection shot, the steroid injections.
yes, I was doing that, and it would come back like a little peach fuzz, but nothing of any kind of thickness or anything like that. So then it was hard to keep up with those shots and everything. So tried different kind of salves, stuff over the counter at the beauty supply store, and nothing just worked. So I just kind of had to realize that I was never going to have hair around my edges, but being young, I was still getting my hair braided. I was going to 125th Street every so many months, getting my hair braided. And I should have known something was wrong when them ladies would braid my hair, and then they would, the part here, they would take the thread to kind of bring them close to this,
Mhm.
the braids come together. And that was further adding tension, and whatever little bit I had there, it was just rubbing out, coming right on. So I just had to come to grips that I would never have hair around my hairline. I would always have hair, and I had a nice grade of hair, but
Mhm.
it would like kind of start back here.
Okay. Okay. So when you were diagnosed with alopecia, like what was your biggest fear or concern when you were first diagnosed?
I think when I was first diagnosed, because I was diagnosed young, I don't think I had any concern about it because I didn't know what it was. I just know that the doctor said I had alopecia, and that I didn't have a hairline. But then as I got older, then it was just I think I was more cognitive of it and different styles that I was wearing. And so I was like, well, I have this nice hairdo. Let's say I had some braids. I had these nice braids, but they starting back here. And for me,
Mhm.
it looked funny. So now I'm trying to do styles that kind of camouflage, like
Yeah.
braid, or even if I had a regular styled hairdo, I was trying to make it come this way. And then for me, I felt like, well, that looks like an old lady hairdo. So
Right.
I was just like, this is not working. So, but again, back when I was originally diagnosed, I don't really think that I thought too much of it because I was
Okay.
young. So I just,
Yeah.
okay, I got alopecia. I don't really know what that means, but
You're right. And you know what?
I'm still gonna wear my hairstyles.
And even still though, like when people go to dermatologists, and I'm not gonna say all dermatologists, but people are still not having the best experiences when they go to dermatologists. I mean, alopecia just means hair loss in general. That's all it means, right? So the fact, like you said, you just learned a year or two ago that there are different types of alopecia that can affect you in different type of ways. So there's a lot of education I think that still needs to be done, but I am happy that more people are talking about it, more people are sharing, because I have also noticed that in public, people don't automatically assume that I'm sick or have cancer. Or people will come up, someone will say, "Hey, oh, my sister has alopecia." Like they automatically recognize it now as
Right.
alopecia instead of an illness with like cancer or something else, which is a good thing. That is a good thing. And I think also part of that is that more and more women are maybe being affected by it, or more and more women are now kind of saying something. They're not hiding it as much as they used to. I
I I think it's women are saying more about it, and you are now seeing more women of color that are bald,
yeah.
and more affluent women. She's a congresswoman in
Oh
Massachusetts.
yeah, yeah. Patricia.
Yeah,
What is it? Patricia Wesley? Yes.
press leaders, and so I think alopecia is now being talked about more. Even like some of the women who was at BaldyCon, they all went to the Jennifer Hudson show. You know,
Hmm.
there were all these bald Black women in the in the audience at the Jennifer Hudson. So I think now it's just being more talked about, this alopecia, which is making it more recognizable.
Correct. Right. Exactly. Exactly. Now, when you got older and you said, you know what, I'm tired of covering up the edges that are missing in my hairline, and I'm tired of this, so I'm gonna go ahead and cut it off. Was there ever a point where that affected your body image or your self-esteem or any of that? Or did you just kind of jump in like, okay, this is it? I was a little uncomfortable at first, but now I'm good and we can keep it going.
I'm a person, I can be a bit impulsive. And when I think about something, I just go ahead on and do it. I don't really second guess it. I just go
Mhm.
ahead on and do it. And I'll deal with the fallout from it if there is any, after the fact. So when I decided to do it, like I said, I just went on ahead and did it. And I said, well, it's hair, it'll grow back,
Mhm.
until then I'll wear some wigs or whatever, but it just happened to work for me. So yeah, I just,
That's a good thing because I know, well, the first time I cut my hair off, it was because I had to cut it off. I got a quick weave and my hair fell out. So, it was just like, I got to cut it off, right? But I was not ready. And so it was horrible for me. It was horrible. Even though my friends were like, "You look good, you look good." And I'm like, "No, I don't." No, I don't. And it lasted for maybe about a month, maybe a month and a half. And then I was back to a wig for a whole entire year, until my hair kind of grew back. Even though, I still had my spots, I was still able to camouflage it with scarves or different things if I wore my natural hair out. But yeah, for a whole year, I wore a wig after
oh,
that. A
yeah.
whole year. Yep. And it still took years later for me to get myself together to cut it off to this look right now. And then be like, I'm good. I'm all right. Like, this is my decision. I feel good about it and I'm going forward. I don't care what people think. So I always like to hear what people's perceptions and their thoughts were when they first cut their hair off, just to see because everybody's different, right?
Yes, and when I first, like again, when I first did it, I said, "Oh, okay, I like it," you know what I'm saying? But then I was like, "Okay, now I gotta play it up," because
Uh-huh.
I don't want to look like, I don't want to look like. And again, when you cut your hair and you go bald, there's always this kind of either like you're sick, like you said, or you swim in the lady pond or whatever the case
Hmm.
be. So I did not want that. So I said, okay, well, I have to play this up. So I said, well, now it just means makeup that I don't usually wear makeup every day, but I'm gonna have to start wearing some makeup. I'm gonna have to do some little eyelashes, some
Hmm.
earrings. So I began to play it up because now I'm just giving all face. there's nothing to hide behind. So I gotta, accessorize. So once I began to start accessorizing, I fell that much more in love with the look, of being bald. Yeah.
So
So
what is your favorite accessory? What is your go-to? Like every day I gotta have this. Like every day I have to have my earrings. That's it. I don't care if I have nothing else. I guess I just have to have earrings on.
I have my earrings, and every day I have to have on some, I don't have to have my face, I have to be what they call beat, but I have to have
Mhm.
makeup on my face. Yes.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Lashes, not so much lashes, when I go out, but I have to have some makeup on my face. Yeah. And
Yeah. And I know some women, like to dress up a little bit more, just do different things. Um, if I had many places to go on a regular basis, I probably would do that.
me too. I would do that, but the type of work I do, it doesn't call for to be dressed up. And actually, when I do go to work, I go to work with looking like I put some thought into it. So I'm coordinated. And then when I go to work, people are like, oh, look at you. You dress so nice. You're so fancy. And I be like, this is just regular every day. So for them, they think I'm dressed up. For me, I'm just matching. So
Right. You just looking good. Just this is what I want to do today.
but, and so you think I'm fancy, then so be it.
Now, are there any other women in your family that have alopecia?
Yes. My sister, I believe, I don't know if she's been formally diagnosed, but she has something going on where she has bald spots and stuff, but she's not ready to
Hmm.
deep dive. My mother has cut her hair real short, almost bald. And I don't know if she has alopecia or not, but I just think due to her health and the different medications that she's on and stuff like that, it has just begun to thin her hair out. So
Okay.
she's looking more like me, but my sister, she's not there yet. She's gonna continue to wear a wig. So
And it's fine. I always say to each his own, do whatever makes you feel comfortable. If that's what keeps your confidence up and you're good with it, do it.
yeah.
But I asked that question because I kind of noticed in my family too that I'm seeing more and more women in my family do the same thing. Now, some of them I already knew didn't
Mhm.
have hair or were wearing wigs, but they were older. So,
Yeah.
I just kind of contributed that to them just being older women. But yeah, I'm seeing more and more people in my family like cutting off their locks or cutting off, their hair and going to a low cut or, like you said, the TWAs or, wearing the wigs. And I'm just like, okay, so how long has this been happening for you? But it's just amazing how we still don't talk about it. We still like, no, people are still like, hush, hush, even though we're in the same family, nobody is saying anything. And
Right.
even though they know, a lot of them know that I talk to people and support women with hair loss, or they know of my own journey just because of seeing me. I didn't necessarily talk to them about what was going on in the early stages, but yeah, after I cut it off into this look, this has been years. So you would think that people would say, okay, look, I got this going on. What do I do? Or can I talk to you about it? Or what happened with you? So I know what's happening with me. It's still very hush hush. It's just like, okay, I see them change their hairstyle and then nothing said about it. To say they have to, but have you had those same experiences?
I think what for me, but no. So a lot of I'm probably like the only one in my circle that look like this. All my friends, they all still have the long, lavish, you
Mm-hmm.
hair, the weaves, or whether it's their own or whatever the case may be. So no, I haven't come across that. And in my family, we don't really talk about hair or anything like that. So maybe they like it on me, they be like, that looks good on you. But
I couldn't do it. I get that.
I think I hear a lot of women say, oh, I'm too fat, you know what I'm saying? Or my face is too big I would love to go bald, or cut my hair short, but my face is too big. And I'm like, that is so not, what I'm saying? I don't know why we attribute our weight to our hair, how we wear our hair to our weight. If you want to cut it, just cut it. You got to make it work for you,
Yeah.
and
And
I just
another thing I hear too is I don't think I have the head for that
oh
or
I
head shape. Or I'm like, well, how do you know you never cut your hair off? I mean, I didn't know what my head looked like until I had to cut it off. So, You don't
Right.
know.
Yes,
You
yes.
don't know.
We're so
Um,
judgmental of ourselves, that we'll talk ourselves out of, we want to do things, but we just second guess ourselves, with, oh, I don't think I have the right shape head for that, or I got a big head. Well, again, like you said, how do you know you have a big head? You might have a little tiny peanut head.
exactly. It might be cute and round.
Making it look big, so.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. So have you ever like encountered any like stigmas or misunderstandings from people who, whether you know them or not, in regards to your alopecia? And then if you did, how did you handle those situations?
Well, I think for me, right, as being with people not knowing that I have alopecia, I think just being bald, I think right now for me, I'm noticing that when it comes to the opposite sex, you
Okay.
know, it's kind of like they'll say, oh, I have guys tell me, oh, I wish I had your barber, because I had scalp micro the S.
Pigmentation.
Yes, I had that done. So
Okay. Me too.
my hairline, it like that little tattoo process. So I have
Hmm.
this perfect hairline. So I have men who say, "Oh, who's your barber?" And I'm like me, and they're like, "Oh, okay." But again, they'll tell me that it looks nice, you wearing that, but I don't think they see me on their arm.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So I think for me, the biggest challenge with this being bald is not too many men talk to me in that kind of a way.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
again, they'll look, they'll comment or whatever, but again, I don't think they see themselves with a bald woman on their arm.
I think it depends on the man too.
Yeah.
Because I know I met my partner when I was bald. So, but part of that was that was part of my decision to go ahead and embrace this look and get the micropigmentation was so that I could just be myself authentically when it came to dating and life and anything, right? I didn't want to cover and hide anything because this is who I am, right? But yeah, I get the compliments. You look good, this, and that. Uh, but I think too, I'm just gonna just say, just from my partner's experience, his mother always had a low haircut.
Okay.
So she always had like a TWA, you know. So he was just like, I mean, my mom always had short hair. I don't care. And even my former husband, before he passed away now, but his mother had hair loss or alopecia. She just wore wigs, so he was used to seeing a woman who, had hair loss. So it wasn't a big deal for him when I said, "Oh, I have alopecia." Now, I met him when I still was covering it up. I was still doing crochets and wigs, and really camouflaging it. And I had to kind of tell him, and I was so nervous to tell him. I was like, yeah, so I have this condition, and my hair is coming out, and da 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 da." And he was
Mhm.
just like, "Okay, cool." I mean, my mom, she doesn't have hair. And I was like, "Oh,
Right,
okay."
right.
So you
Yeah.
just never kind of know. But there are, like you said, those men who were like, "Yeah, I couldn't do that. I couldn't
Right,
do that."
right.
Until they see you looking good, like you got your clothes on, you going somewhere, and they're looking like, "Oh," that's when
Mhm.
you get those stares, and they're like, "I can't believe how pretty she is, and she doesn't have hair." Those are the stares you start getting.
Yes.
So,
I get,
uh,
again, I still feel like I get those stares, but I still feel like those type of men are still like, I like it, but I don't think I would date you. You know what I'm saying? Not
yeah.
ready to date a woman with no hair, short hair, or no hair, especially I think if they themselves are bald. You know what I'm saying? Um,
Hmm.
yeah, I just feel like, and maybe that's just the men here in Connecticut where I'm at. You know?
I think that's just everywhere. I mean, I don't know, but again, all men are different. We can't put them in a box.
Right. But I know one thing, I ain't gonna add no hair to find one. So this
No.
until that's whoever, that confident man, you know what I'm saying, that um is not gonna mind, not gonna care,
Yeah,
so.
yeah. And I know I've talked about this a little bit before, but there are so many women out there who they're really, really putting a lot of pressure on themselves. They're losing their hair, they are in relationships, and they don't want their partner to know, or they keep, kind of really trying to do something to get their hair back, even though it may not be working, because they're so worried about their partners leaving them. So, it's like, ooh, that's a hard situation. And I have so much empathy for, women who are in those positions and feel that way. I was actually at a conference, and this woman, she still had hair, but she has scarring alopecia, but she has curly hair, so it kind, she's able to cover it up and kind of camouflage it pretty good, But to hear her talk about her husband's like, do whatever you need to do to keep that hair, throw everything, spend whatever you need to spend. And I'm like, that is right. It's like wreaking havoc on her self-esteem. I know she doesn't want to lose her hair. Nobody does. Nobody does. But to have that added pressure on you to say, hey, do what you need to do here, the money, da 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 da, because I need to see you with hair. That's horrible,
Yeah, because you can't be your true authentic self, you know.
And you can't help what's happening to you. You can't, you
Right.
know. It's like things are just out of our control, and you can only do what you can do.
Yes. Yep. Or do what the man wants you to do.
Now, I know I have a coping mechanism as far as how I deal with people who are always like staring, or, all the attention I might get from being bald. Do
Mhm.
you have any coping mechanisms that you may have adopted to just say, to help you get through your day? Like, I'm not worried about these people looking at me. I'm good, just to keep you confident.
No, because you know what? I've always been a confident person. And so when I notice people staring, I think I kind of just stare at them to let them know that I know you're staring, you know.
Mhm,
But
mhm.
I don't, not in like a nasty kind of way. But ask, you know what I'm saying? Instead of staring, ask. I mean, if you want to ask me a question, ask. I'd rather for you to ask me a question than to just stare at me. I
Right.
just staring is just rude. And yeah, curious about something, ask me. I don't have a problem sharing. I have alopecia and this was my decision to cut all my hair off, but for me, like I said, it's not, I just kind of stare back just to let them know I'm aware that you're staring. But
Exactly.
it's okay for you to ask whatever it is that you want to ask. And
hmm
that's kind of how I deal with the stares. Yeah.
That makes me think about the Facebook group. Don't stare, just ask. Don't stare, just ask. That's exactly what it's about. That's exactly why the group was created. Don't stare, just ask.
It's
So,
always, for me, it's the kids. The kids will be like, Mommy, she's bald, you know what I'm saying? Or they'll be like, why you don't have no hair, And so the mother is like, don't say that, I'm like, it's okay, you know what I'm saying? They're kids, you know what I'm saying? So, and I always just kind of say, yeah, I don't have any hair, and I say I choose not to have any hair, but kids are kids, so yeah.
right. And I also think too, kids, they've been exposed to like Black Panther and seeing all the bald Black women on there. So a lot of times I think they stare too, because they like, oh my gosh, like they may relate you to a character they've seen on TV or something like that. So there's like, wow, we have a person, like a warrior here.
Right, I haven't had a child go like this yet, so
Now I haven't had that either, haven't, but it would be cool if it happened.
Right. But yeah,
So, like, go ahead.
no, I was gonna say, yeah, that's for me with the staring is just, like I said, just wanting to let them know that I know you're staring, but it's okay to ask, why am I bald? I don't have a problem with it. It needs to be talked about. So I feel like the more we talk about it, the more education you're giving people, about
Right.
being bald, whether it's alopecia or, cancer or whatever, lupus, whatever, autoimmune, it just educates people. Yeah.
Yeah, and I also think too with the kids, they are exposed to so much more and understand so much more than we understood, because just things just weren't either, they may not have been talked about, or talked about with children, or children, just wasn't exposed to it, or they just weren't talked about at all, you
Right.
know. But
Right.
nowadays, these kids, they know a lot. And sometimes I'm like, oh, I don't want you to know that much. But it does help when they may have another child, or somebody at school that may have alopecia, or may have cancer, or may have something that's causing their hair loss or make them look different. It gives them more empathy, and I think that helps cut down on the bullying, and just the different things. Now I know those things still happen, I do know that, but just because they've been exposed to so many different things, I don't think it's as harsh than it probably would have been when we were younger, you know?
Exactly right, because this wasn't a thing when we were coming up. Everybody here.
Everybody had hair, everybody had to have straight hair, and
Yeah,
if, like it had to be right.
afro had to be right, depending on, back in the 70s, that afro had to be right. And,
Hmm.
like you said, it had to be right, pressed, laid, dyed, and what laid, fried, and dyed to the side or something like that. So it had to be top notch.
Exactly, exactly. So okay, I'm gonna ask you this. Have you experienced a woman who's having challenges with hair loss and maybe they've come to you for advice? And if you haven't, what if a woman came to you for advice? What advice would you give for maybe someone who's newly diagnosed with alopecia?
If somebody who was newly diagnosed with alopecia, I think I would tell them to um, learn all you can about alopecia, because alopecia is a word, but it has, because there's different variations of it. You may have that kind of alopecia where you don't have no hair, so no eyebrows or no eyelashes, no body hair. I would tell them to educate themselves and then begin to just um get the feel of their new, this is going to be their new reality of not having any hair. So, I get wigs and stuff like that, but wear some wigs some days, maybe some days not wear, or, when you're in the house, but then gradually start going outside, without a wig or without a hat or without some kind of covering. So that way you can slowly wean yourself from wigs and hats and coverings that will also begin to add more friction to the scalp. Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm.
I think that's what I would do. It's just baby steps, what I'm saying? Everybody can't take a deep dive,
Exactly.
and just say, oh, I'm bald and I'm going to be, I'm every woman. They can't, well, some women just can't do that because there's a lot of attachment to our hair.
Yeah.
It's our crown, so it's a lot of attachment to it. I know when I cut my first set of locks, I cried because
Hmm.
it was a part of me for like 12 years, and to cut them, I was in tears, I saved them and everything, so I get it, but again, this time where I was at in my life with this, I was just like, I'm over it. I'm doing it. I'm in my 50s now, and this is just what it's going to be. I'm not trying to keep up with the Joneses. I don't have every style there is to have in the book. I'm over it. So yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
again, baby
I,
steps.
I've talked about that, like how your hair is your part of your identity. It's a part of your body. It grows from you. So yeah, you're losing a piece of yourself, or you've lost a piece of yourself. We don't always look at it like that, and I think I've shared this. I know I've shared this before, like how we actually have to go through a grieving process, and maybe we don't even know it all the time. I don't think I knew it at the time that I was going through a grieving process. But yeah, we are losing a piece of ourselves. We have to grieve that piece of ourselves in order for us to eventually get better and maybe, embrace it and move forward and do what we need to do, right?
Definitely, definitely, yeah.
So have you had any proud moments during your alopecia journey? You know what I mean? Like, has there been a time where you like, oh, okay, I feel good, or you did something for someone else to help uplift them, or anything like that made you just proud?
Oh gosh, let me think. um. Oh, I mean, I know there's something, you know what I'm saying? I think for me, I think every day, I think I'm proud every day. I think I'm just every day when I get up and I step out this door and I know that I feel good about myself. I feel like I look good, and for others to say, oh my God, I have other European women telling me, oh my God, you look so regal, and
Mhm.
I'm just like, okay, regal, that's like a queen, okay.
Right, and I accept it.
But to say that is coming from, the European, population, that makes me feel good because it makes me know that they're watching it. They're noticing. I'm noticeable. I stand out. I look different. And for me, that's another proud moment for me when I'm in a space with other women of color who are wearing this long, flowing hair, which is supposed to be the norm for beauty. And
Mm-hmm.
I am with my bald self, and my high cheekbones, and I'm looking. So for me, that makes me feel very good and very proud because I don't look like them.
Right.
Not to say anything is wrong with the way they look because I was once them, but this is where I'm at now in my life and in my journey, and it feels good to know that I stand apart, in that aspect. So that makes me feel good. That really,
Okay.
yeah.
Cool. Now, is there anything else you would like to share with the audience as far as maybe words of encouragement, words of wisdom, anything before we wrap up this episode of the Bougie Baldie Podcast?
I think, you have to know thyself, in any and everything, but with this alopecia, just know yourself, know what, like I said, baby steps on your transition from having hair to no hair. Embrace it, play it up, with your accessories, and just own it. You just have to own it. You just have to own it. There will always be naysayers. There will always be people that say, oh, I don't know why she did that. You know what I'm saying? I would never be bald or whatever the case may be,
Mhm.
that's them, you know what I'm saying? They don't know your story, you know what I'm saying? So you just have to, again, like I said, own it and walk in it, embrace it, and it will all come full circle. It really will.
Yes,
It really,
yes. And I agree with that because once you have that confidence up and it comes out and it always shows, you'll notice that people really aren't saying too many negative things, because your confidence is like overshadowing anything. So,
right.
but if you walk outside with your head down and have low self-esteem and people can see that, they're going to
Right.
feed off of that.
Yes,
So
exactly.
you
Yeah.
have to have confidence. You have to hold your head up high.
Head up high, and you know what I'm saying, when you walk in that room, and just all eyes on you,
All eyes, right.
saying, oh, she's beautiful or she look a mess, whatever, you know what I'm saying? Just hold your head up high and walk it and own it. Just own the room, and
Own it and smile. I know I
yeah.
walked into a room or it was a dinner
Mhm.
and it was people I didn't even know. I only knew like one person there, but everybody else was a stranger and I was the last person to get there. So of course I walk in and all eyes on me. It goes silent and I'm like, "Hi," and I'm smiling and I'm just like, "What's up?" Because you have to show that confidence.
Yeah, that ice. You really do have
Yeah,
that ice.
yeah.
Let
And then
them
people go to norm, they go back to normal. You just got to give them time to get through that initial shock, like, oh, she doesn't
right,
have
right.
hair, you
Everybody,
know.
everybody that came in before you is kind of looking the same or kind of got that similar look. You know what I'm saying? Now here you come completely, smooth, head shining, like a bowling ball, whatever the case may be. And I think sometimes it just shocks people, to see a woman, so beautiful, you know what I'm saying, without this this thing called hair that people say is supposed to define your beauty.
Yeah.
I think it just shocks people in the beginning. So yeah, you just have to own it. And like I said, the stares will be there, the whispers will be there, but then after a while, like you said, they just go on back to whatever it is they're doing.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much, Michelle, for sharing your journey, giving your opinion, your thoughts, and all of the things. Now,
And I just
everyone, I will. Oh, go ahead.
so one day, I also want to tell, if you're going through, there's a tons of support groups throughout social, like on Facebook. Again, like I found BaldyCon on Instagram, just being on
Mhm.
Instagram, and I saw this. I was like, BaldyCon, what is this about? And Felicia, the organizer, she was on there, beautiful, whatever. And I was like, I'm going to that. And I
Mhm.
booked and I went the first year. Come to find out, two of my friends went with me, and I've been going. This will be my third year going. But I say all that to say is that being at that conference, that's when I never even knew what a trichologist. I never even knew what that was, and that's somebody that really specializes in the scalp and the follicles and things that I didn't know what that was until this. So there's so many support groups out here. There's a lot of education out here, there's different conferences and meetups and things of that nature. So, and I really didn't even know that there was a whole community of bald women, I think I really found my tribe by going to that conference that first year, so.
Yeah.
And like I said, I'm part of different Facebook groups and everything like pertaining to, being bald and everything. So you're not alone, what I'm saying? You just have to tap in.
Tap in, be open. You don't have to get up there and show your face or, take pictures and videos. You could just simply like and comment on other people's picture or just make a post about whatever. And there will be a ton of people there to support you. You could say, I went outside for the first time without my wig on, and you will have 300 people in those groups supporting you and cheering you on, saying congratulations,
Learn so much about scalp care and products to use and clippers to use if you do your own, if you cut your own hair. It's just so much, follow some influencers that are, bald and everything. So it's just we're just a whole vibe.
Really, it is. It is. And I didn't even realize it until I got into this work that I'm doing. And I was like, I didn't even know all of this stuff was out there. But again, a lot of these support groups and like even BaldyCon, this was just happening in the last several years. This is still new, but I'm glad that it's here.
Yeah, definitely growing. Yeah. Yep.
Thank you for sharing that information about support groups. And I am going to put Michele's information, her IG, TikTok, and Facebook information will all be in the description of the podcast. So, you guys, if you want to follow her, make sure you go to her page and check her out. And also, before we leave, I want to make sure you guys know that I am still looking for people for the Bougie Baldie show. So, the Bougie Baldie TV show is an extension of the podcast where we will have episodes educating, providing real information, real stories about hair in general or hair loss. And we also have companies that are on there that have either services or products that support people with hair loss. It could be men, it could be women, but those companies are on there as well. So if you are a company that has a service or product that supports hair growth, hair health, hair loss, whatever it may be, make sure you click the link in the description to book a call with me. Or if you just want to be a panelist and just talk about a particular subject around hair loss, you can share maybe some of your experiences and just have, girl, let's sit down and talk about this alopecia. If you want to be on one of those panels, make sure you hit me up and let's book a call so that, I can see about getting you on the show. So that is all we have for this episode. Thank you guys for listening or watching if you are watching on YouTube or LinkedIn. Thank you guys. And thank you again, Michele, for sharing your knowledge, your experience, and all of your uplifting information.
You're welcome. And thank you for having me. I really enjoyed this. I enjoyed talking about, my hair loss, and alopecia and just every day walking in it. I enjoy this. Yes. Thank you.
You are absolutely welcome. All right, you guys. Well, we're going to go ahead and leave from my heart to yours. I hope you have a great, blessed day, and I'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.
Are you a woman struggling with hair loss, feeling unattractive and insecure? At Limitless Mindset Coaching, we understand the emotional toll that hair loss can take. In just 90 days, we help you transform from feeling lost and embarrassed to radiating with confidence and joy. Imagine building your self-esteem, discovering the perfect camouflage technique to cover up your hair loss, and receiving tips and tricks that can help you with your hair loss and embrace the new you while connecting with a supportive community of women just like you. Say goodbye to those negative emotions and hello to a positive mindset. Picture vibrant new relationships, walking to the room with your head held high, participating in social events and activities again, and living a life filled with happiness. Are you ready to take that first step? Well, visit www.limitlessmindsetcoach.com or click the link in the description today, and let's embark on this empowering journey together.
Thank you for watching the Bougie Baldie Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe